The notification on my phone screen was the only source of light in my apartment. It was 11:30 at night, and the blue glow illuminated the half-eaten bowl of instant oatmeal on my coffee table. It was a credit monitoring alert. North River Bank, inquiry on commercial loan ending in 459. I stared at it, rubbing the exhaustion out of my eyes. My name is Quinn. I am 29 years old, and if you looked at my life on paper, you would think I had everything under control. I have a steady job as a project manager, a credit score that hovers around 800, and a disciplined savings account. But if you looked closer, specifically at the dark circles under my eyes and the fact that I was eating oatmeal for dinner to save money, you would see the truth. I wasn't just a person. To my family, I was a financial instrument. A walking, talking line of credit. 3 years ago, my parents, Richard and Pamela, had cornered me in their kitchen. They were weeping. The family boutique, a high-end clothing store that had been in our town for 2 decades, was going under. They needed a capital infusion to rebrand and pivot. They couldn't get approved a loan. Their debt-to-income ratio was a disaster. So, they looked at me. The reliable daughter. The workhorse. The one who never asked for anything. Just for a year, Quinny, my dad had said, squeezing my hand with a grip that felt like desperation. Just co-sign the commercial loan so we can get the inventory. We will refinance you off of it in 12 months. I swear on my life. I signed. Of course, I signed. Because in my family, love was a transaction. You paid your dues, and in return, they tolerated your presence. That was 3 years ago. I was still on the loan. The balance was $150,000. And every month, I watched the payment status like a hawk, terrified that one missed payment would destroy the financial reputation I had spent my 20s building. I swiped the notification away and opened Instagram. That was my second mistake of the night. The first thing on my feed was a photo of my sister, Bella. Bella is 24. She is the golden child, literally and figuratively. Blonde, petite, with a laugh that charms bartenders and bankers alike. In the photo, she was wearing a white silk robe, holding a glass of champagne. The location tag read The Grand Ivy Spa. The caption was full of diamond ring emojis and hearts. Bridal shower bliss. Thank you, Mommy, for the best day ever. Hashtag Bella gets hitched. Hashtag Princess Bride. I froze. My thumb hovered over the screen. A bridal shower. I hadn't been invited. I sat there in the dark, the silence of my apartment suddenly feeling very loud. I knew Bella was getting married in 2 months. I knew this because my mother talked about nothing else. I knew the color scheme was champagne and gold. I knew the venue was the historic vineyard 3 towns over. But I hadn't received a save the date. I hadn't received an invitation. And now, apparently, I wasn't even worth a pity invite to the shower. I put the phone down, my heart hammering a slow, heavy rhythm against my ribs. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was just for her bridesmaids, her sorority friends. Maybe the mail got lost. I needed to know. I picked up the phone and dialed my mother. Hello? Pamela's voice was breathless, loud. I could hear music in the background. Jazz. Laughter. The clinking of silverware. Mom? It's Quinn. Oh. Quinn. The tone shifted instantly. It went from warm hostess to annoyed manager. Is everything okay? We're a little busy right now, honey. Daddy is making a toast. I saw the pictures, I said, my voice steady, though my hand was shaking. The shower looked nice. There was a pause. A long, heavy pause. Oh. Yes. It was lovely. Very intimate. Just the girls. I'm a girl, Mom. I'm her sister. Well, you know, she sighed, the sound of a woman burdened by a difficult employee. It was mostly Bella's friends. Young people. We didn't think you'd be interested. You're always so busy with work. And you know how you get at parties. You sit in the corner and check your emails. We didn't want you to feel obligated. Obligated. I had transferred $5,000 into their joint account last week because Dad said the air conditioning at the store broke. $5,000. That was my vacation fund. Right, I said. I understand. Work is busy. Exactly, she said, relieved. Oh, listen, while I have you. The florist sent a revised quote. It's a little higher than we thought. Could you check if the bank offers any temporary limit increases on the business line? Just for cash flow? The audacity was so breathtaking I almost laughed. I have to go, Mom, I said. Okay. Don't work too hard. You sound tired. She hung up. I stared at the black screen of my phone. I didn't cry. I think I had forgotten how to cry years ago. Instead, I stood up, walked to my tiny kitchen, and poured the rest of the oatmeal down the sink. I needed to see them. I needed to look them in the eye. Because if they were planning to squeeze me dry and then discard me, I needed to know for sure. 2 days later, on a Tuesday afternoon, I left work early. I drove 45 minutes to the town where my parents lived and where their boutique, Gilded Lily, was located. The shop was beautiful, I had to admit. The windows were dressed with silk mannequins and fresh flowers. It smelled like lavender and expensive money. This was the facade they maintained. The perfect, wealthy family with the perfect, tasteful business. I parked my 10-year-old sedan around the corner so it wouldn't ruin the aesthetic of the storefront, a rule my father had established years ago. When I pushed the glass door open, the bell chimed softly. My father, Richard, was behind the counter. He was looking at a ledger, frowning. He wore a crisp linen suit, but his face looked puffy, red around the cheeks. When he saw me, he didn't smile. He just closed the ledger. Quinn, he said. To what do we owe the pleasure? You didn't say you were coming. I was in the area, I lied. Dropping off some client paperwork nearby. From the back of the store, Bella emerged. She was wearing a white sundress that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. She looked radiant. That was the thing about Bella, she had a glow that made you want to be near her, even if she was cruel. Oh, Bella said, looking me up and down. She crinkled her nose slightly. Hey, Quinn. I looked down at myself. I was wearing my standard work uniform, gray slacks, a sensible navy blouse, flat shoes. Functional. Professional. You look so corporate, Bella said, letting out a small, breathy laugh. Don't you ever want to, look pretty? Just for a day? Hello to you too, Bella, I said, ignoring the jab. I saw the photos of the shower. It looked expensive. It was elegant, my mother's voice came from the office. Pamela walked out, adjusting her pearl necklace. Elegance costs money, Quinn. Something you would understand if you invested in yourself a little more. She walked over and kissed the air next to my cheek. Since you're here, my father said, leaning over the counter. He lowered his voice, though there were no other customers in the store. About that credit line increase. Did you call Mrs. Higgins at the bank? I tightened my grip on my purse strap. Dad, I told you. The business isn't showing enough profit to justify a higher limit. You are already paying high interest on the $150,000. If you borrow more, you'll be underwater. It's not borrowing, it's leverage. Richard snapped, his face flushing a darker red. You have no vision, Quinn. That's your problem. You think like an accountant, not an owner. I am an owner, I reminded him quietly. Technically. That's why my name is on the loan. On paper, Bella chimed in, examining her manicure. But let's be real. It's Daddy's store. You just signed a form. You didn't build this. The injustice of it sat in my throat like a stone. I remembered the night they begged me. I remembered my mother crying, saying I was the savior of this family. Now, I was just a signature they needed to refresh. "Why do you need more money, Dad?" I asked, looking him dead in the eye. The store traffic seemed slow. "Inventory," he said quickly. Too quickly. "Supply chain issues. Prices are up. We need to stock up for the holiday season." "In August?" I asked. "Just call the bank, Quinn," my mother interjected, her voice shrill. "Stop interrogating your father. We are under a lot of pressure with the wedding coming up. The least you could do is make this easier for us." "Speaking of the wedding," I said, seizing the opening. "I still haven't received my invitation." The air in the room changed instantly. The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Richard looked down at the ledger. Pamela busied herself with straightening a stack of scarves. Bella stopped looking at her nails and looked at me. Her expression wasn't apologetic. It was defiant. "We're still finalizing the list," Pamela said, her voice tight. "The wedding is in 8 weeks, Mom. Invitations went out a month ago. I saw Cousin Sarah post hers on Facebook." "There was a mix-up with the printer," Richard mumbled. "Is there something you want to tell me?" I asked. I felt a strange vibration in my pocket. My phone. I slipped my hand in and silenced it, but didn't pull it out. "This isn't the place," Bella said sharply. "We have a brand meeting in 20 minutes. Mom, tell her to come to the festival." "The festival?" I asked. "The Autumn Harvest Festival," Pamela said, latching onto the distraction. "This Saturday. In the town square. We are having a family meeting there. A celebration dinner. Meet us there. We can talk about the wedding details then." "Details?" I felt a flicker of hope. A stupid, pathetic flicker of hope. "So, I am invited?" Bella smirked. It was a small, cruel thing. "Just come to the festival, Quinn. We'll explain everything. Make sure you dress better. There will be photographers." I left the store feeling dirty. I knew something was wrong. I knew they were hiding something. But the conditioned part of my brain, the part that had spent 29 years craving their approval, wanted to believe they were finally going to include me. Saturday arrived with crisp air and a sky so blue it looked painted. The Autumn Harvest Festival was the biggest event of the year in our town. Lanterns were strung between the oak trees, food trucks lined the streets, and a live bluegrass band was playing on the gazebo stage. The atmosphere was joyous. Children were running with candied apples, couples were holding hands. It was the kind of setting where nothing bad could possibly happen. I found my family at a reserved table near the VIP section, away from the common crowds. They were already seated. Richard, Pamela, Bella, and a few of our relatives, Aunt Carol and Uncle Steve. I walked up to the table. Everyone had a plate of food. There was lobster mac and cheese, truffle fries, expensive wine. There was no empty chair. "Oh, Quinn," my mother said, looking up as if surprised to see me, despite having invited me. "You made it." "Hi," I said, standing awkwardly at the end of the table. "I'm here." "Grab a chair from that other table," my father waved his hand dismissively, his mouth full of lobster. I dragged a plastic chair over and squeezed in between Aunt Carol and a planter box. "So," Bella said, clapping her hands together. "The wedding. We are so excited." She launched into a monologue about the centerpiece towers and the imported orchids. I sat there, hands in my lap, waiting. No one offered me a drink. No one offered me a menu. I was a spectator at their banquet. Finally, during a lull in the conversation, I spoke up. "So, about the invitation," I said. "You said we would talk about it." Bella sighed. She exchanged a look with our mother. Then she turned to me, her face arranging itself into a mask of pity that didn't reach her eyes. "Look, Quinn," Bella said. We've been thinking. The wedding is going to be very specific. Specific? I asked. It's an aesthetic thing, she said. But it's also a vibe thing. We want people there who really fit. Fit? I repeated. I'm your sister. Technically, Bella said. And there it was again. That word. But let's be honest. You're kind of a downer. You always talk about money, or work, or budgets. It stresses everyone out. I talk about money because I'm the one helping you manage it, I said, my voice rising slightly. See? Bella pointed at me with her fork. That energy. That's exactly what I don't want on my big day. I want joy. I want luxury. I want success. And I'm not success? I asked, looking at my parents. Dad? My father took a sip of his wine. He didn't look at me. Bella has a point, Quinn. You carry a heavy cloud with you. It's depressing. We decided, Pamela said, her voice smooth and cold, like polished ice, that it would be better if you didn't attend the ceremony. Or the reception. The sounds of the festival, the laughing children, the banjo music, seemed to fade away, replaced by a high-pitched ringing in my ears. You're banning me? I asked. From my own sister's wedding? It's for the best, Bella said, shrugging. Then she delivered the line that would haunt me, and then save me. Finally, a wedding without the family burden. My father nodded in agreement. He wiped his mouth with a linen napkin and muttered, loud enough for the whole table to hear. She's right. Some people are show ponies, and some are workhorses. Let's be honest, trash doesn't belong in luxury photos. Aunt Carol gasped softly, but she didn't say anything. She just looked down at her plate. I sat there. I felt the vibration of the insults in my bones. Burden. Workhorse. Trash. They thought I would cry. They thought I would beg. They thought I would make a scene, which would give them more ammunition to call me unstable. Instead, I reached into my pocket. My hand brushed against my phone. I had pressed the record button the moment I saw there was no chair for me. A gut feeling. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who realizes the building is burning down, but they are holding the only fire extinguisher, and they have decided to let it burn. I understand, I said softly. You do? Pamela looked suspicious. Yes, I said. You want a wedding that represents who you truly are. Without any burdens. Without any trash. Exactly, Bella beamed, missing the sarcasm entirely. I knew you'd get it eventually. Maybe we can send you a piece of cake. Don't bother, I said. I stood up. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't look back. I walked away from the table, through the crowd of happy families, the recording still running in my pocket. My father's words echoed in my mind, trash doesn't belong in luxury photos. He was right. But he forgot one thing. The trash was the only one paying for the luxury. And I was about to take out the garbage. I drove home in silence. No radio. No podcasts. Just the sound of my tires humming on the asphalt and the blood rushing in my ears. When I got back to my apartment, I didn't turn on the lights. I threw my keys on the counter, kicked off my sensible work shoes, and sat down on the floor with my back against the sofa. I pulled my phone out. My hand was steady now. Cold, but steady. I pressed play on the recording. Finally, a wedding without the family burden. Bella's voice tinny and sharp through the speaker. Trash doesn't belong in luxury photos. My father's voice. Low. Dismissive. I listened to it 3 times. The first time to hurt. The second time to numb. The third time to analyze. They weren't just insults. They were a declaration of my value to them. 0. I was zero. Actually, I was negative. I was an eyesore they were willing to tolerate only as long as I was useful. And apparently, my utility had expired now that the checks were signed. I stood up and walked to my desk. I opened my laptop. The screen glowed white in the dark room, illuminating the stack of unpaid bills I kept organized in a wire basket, bills that belonged to me, for my modest life. I navigated to the North River Bank commercial portal. Because I was a co-signer on the $150,000 loan, I had full administrative access. I usually only checked the balance to ensure the minimum payment had been made. I trusted my father to handle the operations. He was a businessman, after all. He knew the rules. Or so I thought. I logged in. Password entered. Two-factor authentication code entered. The dashboard loaded. Current balance, $148,900. Available credit, $1,100. They had nearly maxed it out. I clicked on the tab labeled Transaction History. I expected to see wholesalers, fabric suppliers, utility companies for the store. Maybe some marketing expenses for the rebranding they talked about. Instead, I saw a catalog of my sister's dream wedding. August 12th. Vendor, the Diamond Bridal House. Amount, $12,500. August 14th. Vendor, Lux Travel Maldives. Amount, $8,000. August 20th. Vendor, Majestic Vintages and Spirits. Amount, $5,300. August 25th. Vendor, Elite Floral Design. Amount, $15,000. I scrolled down. And down. And down. My breath hitched in my throat. This wasn't just mismanagement. This was embezzlement. This was bank fraud. The commercial asset-backed loan agreement, which I had read carefully 3 years ago, had a specific clause, Clause 4B, use of proceeds. It stated clearly, in bold text, that funds were strictly for working capital, inventory, and business improvements. Using these funds for personal expenses was a breach of contract. It was illegal. My parents weren't just borrowing money to pay for a party. They were using a federally regulated commercial loan to fund a private event, risking not just their business, but my financial future. If the bank audited this account and saw these transactions, they could call the loan immediately. They could sue us. And because I was the one with the assets, they would come for me. I looked at the date of the floral charge. August 25th. That was 2 days ago. The day my father told me they needed more money for inventory. He had looked me in the eye and lied. He didn't need inventory. He needed flowers for the daughter he actually loved. I sat back in my chair. The anger that had been simmering in my gut cooled into something hard and sharp, like a diamond. They called me a burden? No. I wasn't a burden. I was the foundation. And they had just taken a sledgehammer to the only pillar holding their roof up. I took a screenshot of the transaction history. Then another. Then I exported the entire ledger to a PDF file. I wasn't going to cry about not being invited to the wedding anymore. I was going to make sure there was no wedding to be invited to. Sunday morning broke with a gray, heavy rain against my window. It was fitting. The world outside looked like how I felt inside, stormy, inevitable. I made a pot of coffee. Black. I drank it standing up in the kitchen, staring at the wall. Then I sat down at my laptop again. It was time to write the letter. I opened my email client and composed a new message. The recipient was Mrs. Higgins, the senior loan officer at North River Bank. She was a stern woman with steel gray hair who had always looked at me with a mixture of pity and respect when I came in to sign papers. Subject, urgent, notice of irregular activity/request for removal from loan account number 459002. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. This was it. The nuclear option. Once I sent this, there was no going back. There would be no reconciliation at Thanksgiving. There would be no awkward Christmas dinners. This was the end of my family as I knew it. I thought about Bella's face at the festival. Finally, a wedding without the family burden. I started typing. Dear Mrs. Higgins, I hope this email finds you well. I am writing to you in my capacity as the co-signer and guarantor for the commercial credit line held by Gilded Lily Boutique, account number ending in 459. Over the past 48 hours, it has come to my attention that the primary borrowers, Richard and Pamela, have been utilizing the credit facility for purposes that appear to be unrelated to the business operations of Gilded Lily. I have reviewed the transaction ledger. I have identified multiple significant charges to vendors that appear to be associated with personal event planning, specifically a wedding, rather than business inventory or capital improvements. These transactions include payments to travel agencies, bridal salons, and luxury caterers. Attached to this email, please find a PDF export of the transaction history highlighting the questionable charges. Furthermore, I am attaching an audio file recorded yesterday, August 26, in which the primary borrowers explicitly confirm their intention to exclude me from family affairs while simultaneously pressuring me to authorize credit limit increases for these personal expenses. This recording demonstrates that I have been misled regarding the financial state of the business and the intended use of funds. Given these findings, I believe there has been a material adverse change in the risk profile of this loan. I am formally requesting an immediate audit of the account. I am also formally requesting to be removed as guarantor, as my signature was obtained under the pretense that funds would be used strictly for business purposes as outlined in our contract. Please contact me immediately regarding the next steps. Sincerely, Quinn. I read it over. It was cold. It was professional. It was a weapon. I attached the PDF. I attached the audio file. File name, the_burden.mp3. I stared at the send button. For 29 years, I had been the good girl. The fixer. The one who smoothed things over. I had set myself on fire to keep them warm, and they had complained about the smoke. I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath, inhaling the smell of stale coffee and rain. I am not trash, I whispered to the empty room. I opened my eyes and clicked send. The screen refreshed. Message sent. It was done. The fuse was lit. It might take a day, maybe two, for the explosion to happen. But it was coming. I felt a strange sensation in my chest. I expected guilt. I waited for the familiar crushing weight of anxiety. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt lighter. Terrified, yes. But lighter. Now, I just had to disappear before the fallout hit. I picked up my phone. I had one call to make. Margot, I said when she answered on the second ring. Quinn? Margot's voice was groggy. It was Sunday morning, after all. What's wrong? You sound different. I did it, I said. I sent the email to the bank. I reported them for fraud. There was silence on the other end of the line. Then, I heard the sound of bedsheets rustling and feet hitting the floor. You reported them? Margot asked, her voice waking up instantly. You actually did it? You dropped the nuke? I dropped the nuke, I confirmed. They spent the loan on the wedding, Margot. All of it. $15,000 for flowers. $8,000 for a honeymoon. And they banned me from the wedding while spending my credit to pay for it. Oh, my God, Margot breathed. That is. I mean, I knew they were awful, Quinn, but that is supervillain levels of evil. I need to get out of here, I said. When the bank calls them, or when the cards stop working, they are going to come for me. They know where I live. They have keys to my apartment for emergencies. I can't be here. Pack a bag, Margot commanded. Right now. I'm coming to get you. We're going to my uncle's cabin at Lake Oconee. It's 3 hours away. No one knows the address but me. Okay, I said. Okay. Give me 40 minutes. And Quinn? Yeah? I am so proud of you. I hung up and started moving. I grabbed my duffel bag from the closet. I didn't pack neatly. I threw in sweatpants, hoodies, thick socks. I grabbed my laptop, my chargers, and 2 books I had been meaning to read for 6 months but never had the time for. I walked into the bathroom and swept my toiletries into a pouch. Then I went to the living room. On the side table, there was a stack of wrapped boxes. Gifts I had bought for Bella's bridal shower before I knew I wasn't invited. A crystal vase. A set of Egyptian cotton sheets. I looked at them. I picked up the crystal vase, still in its silver wrapping paper. I walked over to the trash can in the kitchen. I hesitated. It was worth $200. Trash doesn't belong in luxury photos, I muttered. I dropped the vase into the garbage. It landed with a heavy thud, but didn't break. I dropped the sheets in after it. I went to the front door and looked at the spare key hook. My parents had a key. I took the keychain off the hook and put it in my pocket. I would change the locks when I came back. If I came back. I heard a honk outside. Margot's red SUV was idling at the curb, rain slicking the windshield. I locked the door behind me. I sat in the passenger seat, tossing my bag into the back. Margot looked at me. She didn't hug me. She just gripped my shoulder tight. Phone, she said. I held up my phone. Settings, she instructed. Do not disturb. Allow calls from favorites only. Make sure I am the only favorite. I did it. I toggled the switch. The little crescent moon icon appeared in the corner of the screen. What about the bank? I asked. Add the bank to the whitelist, she said. Everyone else? Silence. I added Mrs. Higgins' direct office line to the allowed list. Then I put the phone face down on the dashboard. Drive, I said. Margot hit the gas. As we pulled away from my apartment building, seeing it disappear in the rearview mirror through the rain, I felt like a fugitive. But not a fugitive running from justice. I was running toward it. My phone screen lit up, face down. A vibration buzzed against the hard plastic of the dashboard. Then another. Then another. It's starting, I whispered. Let it burn, Margot said, turning up the radio. We drove north, into the storm, leaving the wreckage of my former life behind us. Before we see how the bank reacts and the chaos unfolds, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Also, drop a comment below telling me which city you are listening from. Every comment helps this story reach more people. Thank you so much. Monday morning at the cabin felt like waking up on a different planet. The air smelled of pine needles and damp earth, not city exhaust. Margot was making pancakes in the tiny kitchenette, the smell of butter filling the room. My phone sat on the wooden table. It had been silent all night, thanks to the do not disturb mode. But I knew that behind that black screen, a digital storm was raging. At 9:15 in the morning, the phone rang. It wasn't a blocked number. It was the specific ringtone I had assigned to the bank. My stomach did a somersault. I looked at Margot. She flipped a pancake and nodded. Answer it. I picked up the phone. This is Quinn. Good morning, Ms. Quinn. This is Beatrice Higgins from North River Bank. Her voice was dry, professional, and devoid of the usual small talk about the weather. Hello, Mrs. Higgins, I said, walking out onto the porch to get better reception. The mist was still rising off the lake. I received your email on Saturday evening, she said. I also listened to the audio attachment this morning with our risk management team. I held my breath. And we have determined that there is sufficient cause to invoke Clause 7C of your loan agreement, material adverse change and misrepresentation of funds. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Okay. What does that mean, exactly? It means, Mrs. Higgins said, the sound of typing clicking in the background, that as of 9 a.m. this morning, we have placed a total liquidity freeze on the credit line for Gilded Lily Boutique. No further withdrawals can be made. All connected debit cards have been suspended. Total freeze, I repeated. So, if they try to buy something, it will be declined, she stated simply. We are also launching a forensic audit into the transaction history you provided. Ms. Quinn, I have to be frank with you. The charges you highlighted are egregious. Using a commercial vehicle to fund personal travel and luxury goods is a serious violation. Depending on the outcome, the bank may move to call the full loan balance due immediately. I understand, I said. And my request to be removed? That is under review, she said. Given that you provided the evidence of the fraud and the audio recording proving you were coerced and excluded from operations, your case for removal is strong. We are viewing you as a whistleblower in this instance, rather than a co-conspirator. But the investigation takes time. Thank you, I said. I want to do the right thing. You did, she said. Then, her voice softened just a fraction. There is one more thing you should know. What? At 8:45 this morning, just before the freeze took effect, an attempted transaction came through from the primary cardholder, Richard. My dad. How much? I asked. $20,000, Mrs. Higgins said. To a vendor listed as Prestige Catering Services. I closed my eyes. They weren't just spending the remaining balance. They were trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel. Did it go through? I asked. No, Mrs. Higgins said. We caught it in time. The transaction was blocked. But Ms. Quinn? That attempt proves intent. It proves they were aware of the tight liquidity and were trying to extract cash quickly. It will help your case for removal. Thank you, Mrs. Higgins, I whispered. I will keep you posted. Goodbye. The line went dead. I stood on the porch, gripping the railing. $20,000. He tried to pull $20,000 out of a business that was already drowning, just to pay for fancy appetizers. He didn't care if the business failed. He didn't care if I was left holding the bag. He only cared about the show. I walked back inside. Margot put a plate of pancakes in front of me. Well, she asked. It's done, I said, cutting into the stack. The money is gone. The cards are dead. And Dad tried to steal another $20,000 this morning. Margot whistled. Bold. Stupid, but bold. Now, I said, looking at my phone which was starting to vibrate with blocked notifications again. We wait for them to find out. The realization didn't hit them immediately. Monday passed relatively quietly. I assumed they were busy with wedding prep, or maybe they just hadn't tried to use the card yet. But Tuesday was the day the first domino fell. It started at around 11 in the morning. I was sitting on the dock by the lake, reading a book, while Margot was fishing off the end. My phone, which was sitting on a towel next to me, lit up. Because of the Do Not Disturb mode, it didn't ring. But the screen woke up. And it stayed awake. Missed call, Mom, 3. Missed call, Dad, 2. Missed call, Bella, 5. Then came the texts. I didn't open them, but I could see the previews on the lock screen. Mom, Quinn, pick up. The card isn't working at the florist. It's embarrassing. Dad, call the bank. Now. There is a glitch in the system. Bella, I am standing at the register and the card declined twice. Fix it. I sipped my iced tea. It's happening, I called out to Margot. Margot reeled in her line. What's the damage? They are at the florist, I said. Card declined. Ouch, Margot laughed. Nothing says luxury wedding like a declined credit card. Over the next hour, the frequency of the messages increased. The tone shifted from annoyance to panic. Dad, I called the bank. They said the account is frozen pending an investigation. What did you do? Mom, Quinn, answer the phone. They are saying there is a fraud alert. Bella, you did this. I know you did this. You jealous witch. I watched the messages pile up like digital trash. It was fascinating, in a morbid way. For years, I had jumped every time my phone buzzed. I had dropped everything to solve their problems. If the internet at the store was down, I drove over to fix the router. If payroll was tight, I transferred money from my savings. Now, I just watched. I imagined the scene. Bella in her white dress, tapping her foot impatiently. My father sweating in his suit, yelling at some poor cashier. My mother trying to smile at the other customers while her credit card was cut in half, metaphorically speaking. At 2 p.m., a voicemail came through from my father. I decided to listen to it on speaker so Margot could hear. Quinn. Richard's voice was loud, distorted. He was shouting. I don't know what you told the bank, but you need to call them back right now and tell them it was a mistake. They are talking about an audit. Do you know what an audit will do to us? You are putting this family in danger. Fix this, or so help me God. The message cut off. He sounds scared, Margot noted. He should be, I said. He signed a contract saying he wouldn't use the money for personal things. He broke the contract. Now he's mad that the bank noticed. He's mad that you pointed it out, Margot corrected. Same thing. I felt a twinge of guilt, deep down. It was the old programming. The part of me that was trained to protect them. Maybe I went too far, a voice whispered. Maybe I should have just let them have the wedding. Then I remembered the festival. Trash doesn't belong in luxury photos. I remembered the $20,000 attempt this morning. I hardened my heart. I'm not calling them back, I said. Good, Margot said. Pass me a beer. We spent the rest of the afternoon watching the notifications roll in. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash. They tried other cards. Presumably, those were maxed out too, or maybe the bank had frozen their personal accounts as well due to the connection. By sunset, the texts had stopped being commands and started being threats. Bella, you are going to pay for this. I will ruin you. Mom, how can you do this to your sister? She is crying her eyes out. I didn't reply. I simply took a screenshot of the lock screen, saved it to a folder named Evidence, and turned the phone face down again. But the silence wouldn't last. Because the vendors, the people owed thousands of dollars, were about to get involved. Wednesday morning brought a new player into the game. I was in the kitchen making coffee when my phone rang. It wasn't a family number. It was an unknown number with a local area code. I hesitated. Usually, I ignored unknown numbers. But Margot nodded at me. It might be the bank again. I answered. Hello? Is this Quinn? A woman's voice. Sharp, stressed, and very annoyed. Speaking. This is Elise, the senior coordinator from the Diamond Bridal House. I am currently trying to process the final payment for Bella's gown and the bridesmaids' dresses, and the card on file has been declined. Again. Okay, I said calmly. Why are you calling me? Because, Elise snapped, your father, Richard, just gave me this number. He said that you are the financial manager for the family and that you handle the wire transfers. He said I should call you to authorize the payment. I gripped the edge of the counter. Of course. Of course he did. Even when he was drowning, Richard was trying to use me as a shield. He was too cowardly to tell the vendor he was broke, so he sent her to me, hoping I would cave and pay it out of my own pocket to save face. He told you to call me? I asked, my voice dangerously low. Yes. And frankly, Ms. Quinn, this is highly unprofessional. The alterations are done. If we don't receive the remaining $4,000 by noon, we are releasing the dresses back into inventory. We have other brides waiting. This was the moment. I could pay it. I had $5,000 in my emergency fund. I could save Bella's dress. I could be the hero one last time. I looked at Margot. She was shaking her head no vigorously. I took a deep breath. Elise, I said clearly. I need you to listen to me very carefully. I'm listening for a credit card number, she said. You aren't going to get one. Not from me. I am not the client. I am not the bride. And I am certainly not the financial manager for this event. But your father said. My father lied, I cut her off. The reason the card is declined is that the bank has frozen the family assets due to a fraud investigation. There was a dead silence on the other end of the line. The word fraud tends to have that effect on business owners. Excuse me? Elise sounded much less aggressive now. The funds used to put the deposit on those dresses were misappropriated from a commercial loan, I explained, using the legal terms I had learned over the last 3 days. The bank has locked the account. There is no money coming. Not now, and probably not ever. Oh my God, Elise whispered. If I were you, Elise, I continued, I would stop all production immediately. Do not release the dresses. Do not do any more work. You are not going to get paid. Thank you for telling me, she stammered. I need to call the venue. We share a vendor list. You do that, I said. Good luck. I hung up. Boom, Margot said softly. I just canceled the wedding, I said, staring at the phone. I didn't just stop the money. I told the vendors. Now they are going to call everyone. The florist. The caterer. The venue. You saved them from working for free, Margot shrugged. You did a public service. 10 minutes later, the nuclear explosion I had been waiting for finally happened. My phone didn't just vibrate, it convulsed. Richard, what did you tell Elise? Richard, she just canceled the contract. She said you accused us of fraud. Bella, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Mom, you have destroyed this family. Are you happy? I picked up the phone and walked over to the sofa. I sat down next to Margot. Read them to me, Margot said, taking a sip of her coffee. I started reading the texts out loud. The rage in them was palpable. They weren't asking for help anymore. They wanted blood. Bella says, I hope you die alone, you miserable spinster. You are just jealous because no one will ever love you like this. I paused. That one stung. Keep reading, Margot said. Let the poison out. Dad says, don't bother coming home. I am changing the locks. You are no daughter of mine. I laughed. A dry, humorless sound. Joke's on him. I already have a key, and I don't want to go back anyway. They are panicking, Margot observed. They realize the game is up. The vendors are talking to each other. The whole house of cards is falling down. And I'm the one who pulled the bottom card, I said. No, Margot corrected me again. She grabbed my hand. You're the one who stopped holding it up. The texts continued for hours. But as the afternoon wore on, a shift happened. The anger started to mix with something else. Desperation. Because reality was setting in. The venue was calling. The caterer was calling. And they had no money, no credit, and no scapegoat to fix it. Thursday morning. The silence from my phone was more terrifying than the noise. After the explosion of rage on Wednesday, the family group chat had gone dead quiet. It's the eye of the storm, Margot warned as we ate lunch on the porch. They're regrouping. Figuring out a new angle. She was right. At 2 p.m., the love bombing began. It started with a voicemail from my mother. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to it on speaker. Quinn, honey, Pamela's voice wavered. It sounded wet, like she had been crying. or acting like she had been crying. Please pick up. Your father, he's not well. He's having chest pains. The stress, it's too much for him. We're so worried. She sniffled. A long, dramatic pause. We know you're angry. And maybe we said some things we didn't mean. But family is family. Please, just sign the authorization form the bank sent us. Just so we can pay the doctors. We aren't even thinking about the wedding anymore. We just want Daddy to be okay. Call me. I stared at the phone. My heart hammered against my ribs. Dad. Chest pains. He has high blood pressure, I whispered. What if I actually gave him a heart attack? My hand reached for the call button. Margot's hand shot out and covered mine. Stop, she said. Her eyes were hard. Think, Quinn. If he was having a heart attack, where would they be? The hospital, I said. And if they were at the hospital, would she be asking you to sign a bank form? Or would she be telling you which room he's in? I blinked. The form. She said sign the authorization form so we can pay the doctors. Margot mimicked Pamela's voice perfectly. Quinn, hospitals bill you later. Emergency rooms don't ask for a credit card before they save your life. They want the credit line open to pay the venue, not the doctors. The realization washed over me like cold water. It was a lie. A sick, manipulative lie using my father's health as leverage. Let's verify it, Margot said. She pulled out her own phone and called the local hospital in my hometown. She put it on speaker. Patient information, please, Margot said in her best polite voice. I'm looking for a Richard Sterling. Was he admitted today? A pause. Typing sounds. I'm sorry, ma'am, the receptionist said. We have no one by that name admitted in the last 24 hours. Thank you, Margot said and hung up. She looked at me. He's not in the hospital. He's probably sitting in his recliner drinking scotch and waiting for you to cave. I felt a new kind of anger then. It wasn't hot and explosive like before. It was cold. It was final. They were willing to fake a medical emergency to trick me into reopening the money tap. They are monsters, I said softly. Yes, Margot said. They are. I picked up my phone. I didn't call them back. Instead, I sent a text to the group chat. Quinn, I just called the hospital. Dad isn't there. Nice try. Quinn, do not contact me again. The response was immediate. The mask of the concerned mother fell off instantly. Mom, you heartless bitch. We are trying to save face. The venue is threatening to sue us for breach of contract. Dad, you are dead to me. Do you hear me? Dead. There it is, Margot said, taking a bite of her sandwich. The truth. By Friday, the war had moved to a new battlefield, social media. Since they couldn't reach me, and they couldn't guilt me, they decided to shame me. Bella unleashed the flying monkeys, a term Margot taught me for the extended family members who do the narcissist's dirty work. It started with a Facebook notification. My cousin Sarah, the one who got an invite, tagged me in a post. Sarah, I can't believe someone would do this to their own sister. Ruining the happiest day of Bella's life out of pure jealousy? Karma is real, Quinn. Hashtag Team Bella hashtag toxic sister. Then came the comments. Aunts I hadn't seen in 5 years. Friends of my parents. People from our church. Aunt Carol, disgusting behavior. After everything your parents did for you. Random neighbor, some people just can't stand to see others shine. Bella posted a long, tearful status, heartbroken. My own sister cut off our family financing and got my wedding cancelled because she wasn't the center of attention. I never knew hate could run so deep. Please pray for my parents who are devastated. I scrolled through the feed on Margot's phone, since I had blocked them on mine, but Margot could still see their public posts. It was a masterclass in manipulation. They painted me as the bitter, unsuccessful spinster who threw a tantrum and destroyed the beautiful princess's dream. They are winning the narrative, I said, feeling sick. Everyone thinks I'm the villain. Only because they don't know the truth, Margot said. You have the evidence, Quinn. You have the recording. You have the bank emails. I can't post that, I said. It's private. They made it public when they posted this lies, Margot pointed at the screen. They are destroying your reputation. They are calling you a thief and a liar. You have to defend yourself. I thought about it. I thought about the years of silence. The years of don't make a scene. The years of protecting their image while they eroded mine. I looked at the text from my father, trash doesn't belong in luxury photos. Okay, I said. Let's burn it down. I opened my own Facebook page. I hadn't posted in months. I started typing. I didn't write a long, emotional essay. I kept it factual. Status update: I normally keep my personal life private, but given the public lies being spread about me, I need to clarify a few things. 1. I did not cut off the family out of jealousy. I reported unauthorized use of funds on a commercial loan I co-signed. 2. The money was intended for the business, not a wedding. Misusing it is bank fraud. 3. I was banned from the wedding because, in my family's words, I was a burden and trash. See attached. I uploaded 2 images. The first was a screenshot of the bank email subject line, urgent, fraud investigation/asset freeze. The second was a transcript of the recording from the festival. Bella, finally, a wedding without the family burden. Dad, trash doesn't belong in luxury photos. I hit post. Then I tagged Bella, Mom, Dad, and cousin Sarah. And now, Margot said, pouring 2 glasses of wine, we watch the world burn. The reaction was instantaneous. The comments on Bella's post stopped. Then, they were deleted. Then, Bella's entire profile went private. My notifications blew up. But this time, it wasn't hate. It was shock. Friend from high school, OMG Quinn, is this real? Cousin Sarah, private message I didn't know. I'm so sorry. Aunt Carol, I had no idea they said that to you. The tide turned so fast it gave me whiplash. The flying monkeys retreated the moment they saw the receipts. No one wants to defend a fraudster. No one wants to side with parents who call their daughter trash. My family didn't just lose the money. They lost their audience. And for people like them, that was a fate worse than bankruptcy. Saturday morning. The dust was settling. The wedding was officially off. The venue had released the date to another couple. The vendors had all walked away. I sat on the dock, feeling a strange emptiness. The war was over. I had won. But it didn't feel like a victory parade. It felt like walking through a graveyard. My phone buzzed. A new email from the bank. Subject: Loan Review Conclusion. I opened it with trembling fingers. Dear Ms. Quinn, following our expedited review and the evidence provided, North River Bank has concluded its investigation into the account ending in 4590. We have verified the misuse of funds by the primary borrowers. As a result, the bank has exercised its right to call the loan due immediately. We have initiated proceedings to liquidate the collateral assets, Gilded Lily inventory and business real estate, to recover the debt. Regarding your status, due to your proactive cooperation and the clear evidence of misrepresentation by the primary borrowers, we have agreed to release you from the guarantee obligation effective immediately. You are no longer liable for the balance of $148,900. Your credit report will reflect a paid/closed status on this account, though the primary borrowers will face default proceedings. Thank you for your honesty. Sincerely, Beatrice Higgins. I read it twice. Then a third time. Released. No longer liable. I started to cry. Not polite, silent tears. Ugly, heaving sobs. The weight of 3 years, the fear, the obligation, the pressure, just fell off my shoulders. I was free. I was $150,000 lighter. Margot came running down the dock. What? What is it? I couldn't speak. I just handed her the phone. She read it. She screamed. A primal, joyous scream that echoed across the lake. She grabbed me and spun me around. "You're free," she yelled. "You're actually free." We sat on the dock for an hour, just breathing. What happens to them? I asked eventually. The bank takes the store, Margot said. Maybe the house too, if they used it as collateral. They lose everything. I did that, I whispered. No, Margot said firmly. They did that. They stole the money. You just refused to be the getaway driver. I looked out at the water. She was right. But knowing you're right doesn't make it hurt less. It just makes it possible to live with. 30 days. That is how long it took for the empire of Gilded Lily to crumble into dust. I didn't go back to watch it happen. I didn't drive by the store to see the going out of business signs taped to the glass windows that my father used to polish obsessively. I didn't need to see it. The town gossip mill, fueled by Margot's network of friends, kept me informed of every agonizing detail. The bank didn't play games. Once they called the loan, my parents had 48 hours to come up with $150,000. Obviously, they couldn't. They were cash poor and leverage rich. To avoid criminal charges for the fraud, because Mrs. Higgins was kind enough to offer them a settlement option instead of calling the district attorney, they had to liquidate everything. The inventory was sold off in bulk to a discount wholesaler for pennies on the dollar. The fixtures, the silk mannequins, the espresso machine in the VIP lounge, all gone. But the store assets weren't enough to cover the debt. So, the house had to go. The house where I grew up. The house where I was told I wasn't good enough. The house where Bella was treated like a princess and I was treated like the staff. It was listed on the market below value for a quick sale. Margot told me that when the movers came, my mother stood on the lawn and screamed at them not to scratch the piano. The same piano she hadn't played in 10 years. And then there was Bella. The wedding didn't just get cancelled, the relationship was annulled before it even became legal. Her fiancé, a nice enough guy who worked in insurance, called it off 3 days after my Facebook post went viral. According to mutual friends, it wasn't the money. He could have handled a broke bride. What he couldn't handle was the malice. He saw the text messages. He saw the way they treated me. He realized that the perfect family he was marrying into was actually a viper's nest, and he was smart enough to run before he got bit. Bella moved into a 1-bedroom apartment with a friend. She blocked me on everything, but I heard she tells people I ruined her life. Maybe I did. Or maybe I just turned on the lights, and the cockroaches scattered. As for me? I stayed at the cabin for 2 weeks. Then I went back to the city, packed up my apartment, and moved. I needed a new zip code. I needed a place where the air didn't taste like obligation. My credit score took a hit, dipping by about 50 points because the account was closed abruptly. But Mrs. Higgins kept her word. The debt was listed as paid/settled on my report, not defaulted. I remember sitting in my new living room, surrounded by boxes, eating takeout on the floor. It was quiet. No phone calls demanding money. No emergency guilt trips. No threats. For the first time in 29 years, my bank account belonged to me. My future belonged to me. I looked at my reflection in the dark window. I looked tired, yes. But I looked solid. I wasn't the family burden anymore. I was just Quinn. And for the first time, that was enough. One crisp morning in October, about 2 months after the festival, I went for a run. I was back at the lake house for the weekend to help Margot winterize the cabin. The air was biting cold, the kind that burns your lungs in a good way. The leaves had turned from green to violent shades of red and orange. I ran along the dirt path that hugged the shoreline. My breath came in white puffs of fog. My feet pounded a steady rhythm against the earth. Thud, thud, thud. I rounded a bend near the old boat launch and stopped. Standing there, right in the middle of the path, was a deer. It was a doe. Small, sleek, with eyes like dark pools of oil. She froze when she saw me, one hoof raised in the air. We stared at each other. I waited for her to run. That's what prey animals do, right? They run at the first sign of danger. They panic. But she didn't run. She lowered her hoof slowly. She twitched an ear. She looked at me with a profound, quiet indifference. I wasn't a threat to her. I was just another creature in the woods. I thought about the last time I saw a deer, back when I was a kid. My father had scared it away by clapping his hands loudly, laughing as it scrambled in terror on the ice. Skittish things, he had said. Weak. I looked at this doe. She wasn't weak. She was surviving the winter on her own terms. She didn't need a herd to validate her. She didn't need a luxurious stable. She just needed the woods and her own instincts. You and me both, I whispered. She held my gaze for another second, then turned and walked, not ran, walked, back into the tree line, vanishing into the mist. When I got back to the cabin, Margot was waiting on the porch. She was holding a white envelope. This came to your old apartment, she said. The mail forwarding service sent it here. I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was my father's script. Sharp, angular, demanding. I took the envelope. It felt light. Do you want to open it? Margot asked. I looked at the postmark. It was mailed from a rental complex in the next town over. I thought about what might be inside. An apology? Unlikely. A lecture? Probably. A plea for help? Almost certainly. I could imagine the words. Quinn, we are struggling. The deposit for the apartment is high. If you could just loan us $2,000, we will pay you back when the dust settles. We are family. I ran my thumb over the seal. If I opened it, I let them back in. Even if I said no, the act of reading it gave them access to my head. It gave them a seat at my table. I thought about the deer. She didn't look back at the path. She just moved forward. No, I said. No? Margot smiled. I know what it says, I said. It says we need. It says you owe. And I don't owe them a single thing. Not money. Not time. Not even my attention. I walked into the kitchen. I didn't have a shredder, so I improvised. I tore the envelope in half. Then in quarters. Then into tiny, jagged confetti. I walked over to the wood-burning stove in the corner of the living room. Margot had a fire crackling inside. I opened the iron door. The heat hit my face. I threw the pieces of the letter into the flames. They caught instantly. The paper curled, blackened, and turned to ash. The handwriting, my name, their demands, disappeared in a burst of orange light. I watched it until there was nothing left but gray dust. Breakfast? I asked Margot, dusting off my hands. Breakfast, she agreed. The healing process isn't a straight line. I won't lie to you and say that every day is a victory parade. There are nights when I wake up at 3 a.m., reaching for my phone to check if there is an emergency text, before remembering that I blocked the numbers. There are moments when I see a mother and daughter having lunch at a cafe, laughing over coffee, and I feel a sharp pang of grief for the relationship I never had and never will have. It's hard to mourn people who are still alive. It's hard to grieve parents who chose their pride over their child. But then I look at my life now. I have a savings account that is growing, not shrinking. I have a job where I am respected. I have friends like Margot who love me for who I am, not for what I can pay for. I realized that family is a heavy word. We use it like a shield to protect toxic people. We say, but they're family, as an excuse to accept abuse, manipulation, and theft. But a shield is supposed to protect you, not crush you. And if the shield is too heavy, you have to put it down. My sister banned me from her wedding because she thought I was a burden. My parents called me trash because I wasn't shiny enough for their photos. They wanted a life without me. So, I gave it to them. I gave them exactly what they asked for. I removed the burden. I took out the trash. And when the silence finally hit them, and the bills came due, and the lights went out, they realized too late that the trash was the only thing keeping the lights on. I don't hate them anymore. Hate takes too much energy. I just, nothing them. They are a bad investment that I finally wrote off. So, now I have a question for you. The only one that really matters after everything I've told you. When the people who broke you come crawling back because they finally need you, will you hand them the same power to hurt you again? Or will you finally choose yourself, even if it means letting their perfect picture fall apart? Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you've ever had to make the hard choice to cut off toxic family to save your own future, hit that like button, it really helps the channel. And if you want to hear more stories about justice and standing up for yourself, please subscribe and turn on notifications. I'll see you in the next video.